Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Music Man Podcast. I'm your host, Joe.
And I'm the other host, Ken.
And we're bringing you another exciting podcast episode that we thought was relevant to the music realm of what we exist in.
Yeah.
But before we get started, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay, doing all right. The weather where I'm at is cooling off a bit. My heart goes out to everyone that has experienced any hardship relating to Hurricane Helene. And let's do our best to, if you can, help, find ways to help out. Personally, I'm doing great. What about you, Joseph?
I'm glad to hear. Good. I had a bout with COVID. I think my first bout with COVID.
Oh, gross.
Yep. I was, in your words, what was I, a dirty human?
Something like that.
Yeah, which I laughed very hard at. I am a dirty human. I have a little tiny dirty human that exists in this house, and so that just goes with the territory.
Well, I'm glad you've healed. I'm glad you're recovering nicely.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it's odd that, I guess it's not odd, but the sicknesses are going around this summer, so everybody drink your vitamin C and eat your Wheaties.
Yeah. Well, it was weird, too, because real quick, like, I never got diagnosed with it, but I get, like, little bouts of anemia. And I was reading about it because all of a sudden it, like, picked up, like, whenever I had COVID, like, it made it, like, 10 times worse. Like, just weird vertigo-y feeling.
Wow.
So it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, this sucks, and I hope this isn't, like, long-term. And fortunately, once COVID was kind of gone, it went away, and I'm like, thank God.
Oh, okay, good.
But other than that, I am totally good. Like you said, heart goes out to especially Asheville.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Such a beautiful town, and such a cool music culture town.
Yeah.
So sad to see that all happening there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. It's in relation to the political climate, and you think about all these people that are struggling as they are, and we got to adjust our priorities and help those that we can right away. So
couldn't have said it better myself. You're exactly right. So I think with that, we ready to get started on this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. Today will be maybe a little bit longer of an episode, depending on what our thoughts are and how much our discussion rolls out of control. But today we come to you to share an experience that Joey and I have had in the musical realm that was pretty significant for us, as well as interesting in the grand scope of, what to watch out for. This is kind of a cautionary tale. I will begin by prefacing saying that I am in no way, shape, or form a legal expert or a music contract law expert. I have no skill other than I can read words. And my father was an attorney for 40 plus years before he retired. And I spent a significant amount of time helping him out on, summers, working for him, doing just generalized paperwork that I was legally allowed to do. But I have read quite a bit of legalese, and in terms of that, I believe that some of my educated guesses helped us out quite a bit in this upcoming story.
Yeah, real quick, not to sidetrack from you.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
am grateful to be in a partnership with you on this stuff because when I was reading it, and you know me, I get overwhelmed by it and it just is like a shutdown. It's like, I
Yeah.
can't understand a word of this, what it's saying. And you clarifying all of this was like great. So I appreciate you actually helping me out understand it better. So anyway,
I'm glad I can help. Again, I'm not an expert. I haven't gone to law school. I just know how to read. But Joey and I have a history of writing songs together. And in the last, what would you say, 5 years now, you started the Sideup project. And it essentially it is a 80s synth based inspired project, and we've collaborated on several songs, and I love it. I've enjoyed it, and I appreciate that you've included me in on the creative end of your projects. And we're, needless to say, proud of our music, proud of what we've done. We like it. And it's one of our songs. Well, Joey, did you do research or reach out to this entity that we're going to talk about?
yeah, actually, I've been not working with them, but I signed up for them like 7-8 years ago.
Okay.
Because I've done a few publishing deals, small, and little bits come from it, but nothing huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't ever officially like submitted anything for anything they did, just because I never really had vocal. It was all instrumental, and they were looking for a vocal piece for this particular thing, which you provided the vocals for.
Got it. So we're talking about a sync deal with a media company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Joey, he took the initiative, and you said they were looking for music in the realm of 80s and 90s inspired type music, right?
Yeah, it was like 80s was the synth pop based stuff we were writing.
Okay.
And then 90s I think was more like the Gin Blossomy type stuff that they were like looking for.
All right, so they were scouting for
Various
material.
Yeah.
And you saw what they were asking for, and you basically said, "Hey, let's submit one of our songs to," or was it a couple of them that you
submitted
up?
4 of them.
Okay. So we submitted the 4 because we know they're good, and they seem to be actually interested in one of our songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here we really don't make money on our music. We are
Very little.
Right. We are very modest in our operations. We just like to make music. And here we have some company that it seems as though they want to buy our song or sign some kind of deal with our song, and distribute it or get it sync deals. Hey, that's pretty exciting. I'm down with that. What do you think, Joey?
Oh yeah. Isn't that what we're really trying to do right now? Like make some money off of our art.
All right, cool. Let's see what this company wants to do with our song. And it's exciting, right? Like, you're going to say something. Go ahead.
Just to previous, like we talked.
Yeah.
We are in no way saying that like this is strictly just our experience. Does not mean that everybody's had this experience.
Right.
It's just our personal experience. It's not great. It's not bad. Go ahead.
well, this is our first experience with something like this. So
Yeah.
we're newbies like nobody's business.
Correct.
But we are both intelligent. And that's where the story starts to get interesting. So this sync company likes our song. I like it. You like it, right, Joey?
Yep.
It's a good song.
It is.
So they, and as I'm talking through this, Joey, correct me and interject if there's little things that are pertinent. But they start to court us and ask, well, you directly, they start asking you about, hey, we'd love to use your song, but can you make some audio adjustments to it? Because it sounds a little blah, blah, blah. All right, that's cool. Well, what else do they want? So we'll go ahead and we'll do a remix of the master so that it sounds, we'll see if it sounds better to them. And while we're doing that, what else do they need? And one of the first questions that they asked you was, would you be willing to issue a takedown of your song from the distributor that has it right now? Give the song to them, this media company, so that they can publish it through their distributor. Now, I'm in many ways, an old tinfoil hat wearing suspicious guy. And I asked Joey, I said, why? What do they need to do that for? That doesn't make sense. So my brain starts doing this tug of war of, well, maybe they need to do that so that they have full and absolute control, or in other words, all of the roadblocks in front of their abilities to take our song and efficiently sell it to someone. They got to have all the roadblocks out of the way. And maybe that means having it with a different distributor means they don't have full legal control over the song in order to do what they need to do to help us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started looking at what does it mean for us as songwriters and distributing it through a distributor, okay? So here's some little bit of just basic 101. We use a distributor called Lander, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have wonderful tools. We like them, or at least I speak for myself, I like them.
No, they're good.
And
I like them too.
yeah. So what ends up happening when you write a song and you pen your lyrics and you record whatever version you want, that recording, you take it to Lander, and they have their you can sign up for a subscription, and you get, all these different masters, and you can distribute as many songs as you want, and so on and so forth. And part of your subscription gives you the freedom to put out as many songs as your beautiful mind can come up with, right? You can also not subscribe and just pay singular fees to have each of your songs or your albums distributed through them, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you are subscribed to Lander, as far as I know, you as the writer or the individual, you get 100% of all the royalties that come back to you, okay? If you don't have a subscription and you just pay as you go, Lander will take, I think, maybe a 15% royalty cut on that, right?
That's what I have, yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to royalties, the general principle is a royalty has a split. It's usually just a 50-50 split, and it's between the songwriter, or we'll use writer as an easier. The royalty splits are typically 50-50 between the writer of the song and the publisher. All right, well, who's the publisher? Well, if you write yourself a song and you go to Lander and you pay them to distribute your song and they distribute it, that makes you the publisher. So you are the writer and the publisher that is using a distributor to get your song out there so that the people can rock and roll or dance or whatever it is, okay? So if you consider yourself the writer who wrote the song and the publisher, that means you get all portions of any royalties that come through, depending on, if you have, depending on if you have a subscription or if you don't, okay? So this media company is asking us as the writers and the current publishers of the song to issue a takedown so that they can become the publisher and distribute it through their own distribution company. So all of my suspicions swirling here is thinking to myself, well then now who's going to get the publisher share of the royalties? Why do they want publishing shares of the royalties? Why do they get it? What do we get from a sync deal anyways? Well, the sync deal is like they take your song and they submit it to movies, televisions, video games, and other types of media, right? And contracts a deal with those types of media and say, well, okay, for $5,000 you can use this song that we have the rights to. And then they take 50-50 split of that contracted deal, and they take 50 and they give us, the writers, the other 50% of that. So here we are, excited about this new deal, right? This, oh my gosh, something's happening. Are we moving and shaking now? This is interesting, right? Like I'm sure there's all kinds of things rolling around in your head while this portion of this story is happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were your thoughts in regards to what was going on?
I was excited. It was nice to get validation that like somebody really likes your song or somebody sees something that's, valid in a song. And in a sea of, or like an ocean of endless amounts of music, a pretty big company was like, hey, this is cool music. We like it. We want to use it, So, and I'm one of those people that kind of sometimes lives too far off the ground where I need to stay more grounded. So lately I've been trying to do that. And this is where I was grateful to have you with this, because had you not, I probably would have been stuck in a bad situation where I might have possibly given up too much of my music to the said entity.
Yeah. So going to the next part of this story, while you and I are trying to figure out what in the heck is going on here, and our suspicions of this company is trying to maybe acquire rights to maybe a little bit too much in the beginning here. Now, to go back to what we said at the very beginning, this could all be normal, but it doesn't have to be okay with you. Right. You as an artist or a creative, you don't have to accept these kinds of terms and conditions, even if this is the norm of the industry or the norm of this kind of situation. Like I said before, maybe they need to do this as extremely, maybe they need to go to these, what I feel are extremes, in order to remove legal roadblocks so that they can efficiently sell your song. Okay, that kind of makes sense. However, your personal preference can be different than what they're offering. So because I was nervous for both of us in regards to, well, if we give them the publishing rights and they put it through their own distributor, here I'm thinking, well, now what if this song blows up and starts streaming all day, every day for the next 4 years? Now they get the publisher's share of the royalty, and I'm sure they're getting a kickback from whatever distributor they're using, or they're just using their own distributor, which means they're getting a full share as if someone else was, let's say, charging them. Like if they had to pay a distributor of their own, they're not losing whatever percentage the distributor would have taken from them. So they're now, not only would they be making 50% of any broker deal with a media source, right? But they're going to get publishing shares of all royalties. All right. It sounds like they're going to make a lot of money off of this song if it is a successful endeavor, right? Would you say that, Joe?
I would say that.
All right, so I think at that point I'd ask you, okay, can you send me the contract? I would love to use my, limited brainiology to look into what is it that they're. Okay, come on. So you sent it to me, right? And upon receiving their contract, this is the red flag that everyone out there should be looking for, because this is the legalese that I feel is inflammatory, predatory, and very, very bad business. It could be the norm. It could be what is used in all of these kinds of contracts. But what it says is very, very, very unpleasant in my opinion. So the very first thing out of the chute in this contract, they use this statement that says the writer grants the publisher, so we are giving them the exclusive, perpetual, and unlimited right, license, privilege, and authority throughout the entire universe to perform the compositions publicly for profit or otherwise by means of public or private performance, radio, broadcasting, television, facsimile, or any and all other means, whether known or unknown. So what's so bad about that statement? You are giving them the perpetual and unlimited right throughout the entire universe. What the heck does that mean? Well, let me tell you this. I remember in the back of my brain, when I read this, I immediately remembered there's an interview that Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins did with Joe Rogan. And there's a section in the interview where he talks about his experience with the music business and what's going on, or at least what went on with his experience. And you can go find that video at about 16 minutes and 50 seconds. He mentions a similar insane clause that talks about giving them rights into the entire universe and unknown universes. Now, he describes that clause as essentially granting, because of the changes in technology, in order to not have to rewrite every contract when new technology comes out. He says that when CDs came out, the contracts didn't cover this new technology because they didn't know if it would be successful and if it would make money, blah, 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 and they would need to renegotiate contracts with all of their musicians because of this new technology. Well, the legal people said, no, we're just going to write in there, it doesn't matter what comes up in the history of the universe ever, throughout time. We're just going to write it in there so we have the right to use it, and we don't need to consider the artist. So that's where this thing is way too heavy-handed for my preference. What's the point of me mentioning, or us mentioning all this, is this is something that you listeners or anybody that may come across this, granted, I have never thought that you and I would ever come across something like this, but we did. And it's concerning because the level of control that they want you to give to them seems a little high. Now, going further throughout this contract, I'm not going to read at length, but it goes into things such as they want us to give them the exclusive, perpetual, unlimited right to basically perform it and use it where needed. They wanted us to give them the right to copyright it and hold that copyright. They wanted essentially the right to create mechanical royalties. So what mechanical royalties or mechanical is basically if anything that is, if a CD is sold or if a record is sold, any physical thing, even a digital copy, those are all mechanical royalties. They wanted us to give them exclusive mechanical rights to create and sell mechanical versions, quote unquote, on our behalf. But there's nothing specifying what our share of the mechanical royalty would be. And then it goes on to, in every single clause, perpetual and unlimited right, perpetual and unlimited right. They continue on in other clauses to say that, you need to give us the right. Let me see here. And ultimately, they spell out that they are going to get 50% of the publishing share now. When you already had 50%, when you already had the writer and publisher share, when you distributed it yourself through are they called DSPs? Is that what they're?
Digital, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Digital, I think so.
Is it service provider, digital service provider, or something like that?
I think so, something like that.
Or distribution. Anyways, so the nail in the coffin that bothered me the most about what this company was asking for is they're basically claiming that they're going to get 50% of a deal they broker. The whole publisher's percentage of the royalty, the performance royalties, which is if the song is played anywhere, and all of the mechanical royalties. And the writer will only get 50% of performance royalties only.
Okay.
And then the icing on the cake, or the last thing they throw in there, is that they get the right to transfer this agreement, or essentially sell the rights to anyone they want without the writer's consideration. You just have to let them sell it and transfer it to someone else if need be. Now, again, I am not a legal expert, and this could be normal for creating
exclusive.
Right, for creating exclusive capabilities to push your music. But from what I read, you would be giving away 80 to 90% of all of the value from this experience. Maybe not 90%, maybe 75%. So you're giving this company 75% and the rights to do whatever it wants with it forever. And going back to the point that I made before, you don't have to be okay with that. Because I have heard many stories of the music industry and successful musicians or not so successful musicians talking about how skeevy and how predatory the music industry can be. And in my opinion, what we came across here is a little bit too shady for my liking. And the rest of you out there that are listening should be concerned or should be suspicious of stuff like this. So ultimately, why do we think it's a better deal for us not to give them rights to sell our song to a media company for some kind of deal? Like, why do we feel as though we're not going to go with this? Well, because as it sits right now, any and all royalties that come from this song, we get them all. If we print CDs ourselves and sell them to people, we get it all. Well, we're the big media company, and we have our contacts and our connections, and we can get your songs into the hands of maybe it's in a famous movie or on a commercial or in a video game, and you can make all this money. Blah blah blah. Sure, that's absolutely. I gladly. The problem is that we will end up in this situation. I believe we would end up getting a pittance pay for creating the very product that they need in order to make money. So
go ahead. I want you to.
Well, no, you say before we move on to our little debrief.
Grievances? No.
What?
Our grievances?
Oh, yes. No, what were you saying?
No. Go ahead.
Well, ultimately, and I speak for you, Joey, that ultimately we decided that it is far more important for us to maintain as full of control over our own music and media, and it's our work. We decided this specific deal, in our instance, was far too invasive, maybe, or far too, like, we're giving away too much. So talking about the debriefing, I like to, let's discuss some questions here in regards to, like, is this a dangerous thing? Like, is this kind of situation bad? Like, did we avert disaster, or is this normal? Like, what do you think, Joey?
Unfortunately, I feel like this is a normal practice, like we talked about, because there are artists that are, unfortunately for you and I, it's not that we're not desperate, but we're not desperate to sign over our masters, like Prince said. Look at the big Taylor Swift thing with Scooter Braun, where she has to re-record all of her albums so that she can control her masters again.
Yeah.
It's not just happening to small artists like us; it's happening to major artists like that.
Yeah.
And like you kind of hint on this a little bit. I'm sure we're gonna get people that are like, well, yeah, they're the ones that are taking the risk on signing you, or if they made connections and this and that. And it's like, this kind of goes back to the previous episode of like smart contracts and like the whole tokenization of things, where you don't have to have a middleman to get to a major media company to be like, you want to use my song? Sure. Just pay me directly, whatever it is. Or we split a 50-50 of whatever comes out of that. And as somebody who's not a legal head, and you with your dad knowing like legal stuff, for me, fundamentally, this is where it gets frustrating, where like everything legal gets so much more complicated than just being, here's our song, you're allowed to use it, but we get a certain portion for you just to use that song for that. Why is it not that cut and dry? Why is there, like you said, all this other extra BS that's added in there where you need to have the streaming rights to this, we need to have this and that? What does that have to do with anything about getting us into a TV show? Or and again, I know you called me intelligent. Maybe I'm not as intelligent as other people are out there, but I'm curious as to why that's not asked as a question. Why do you need all these other things to just have the song in a...
Yeah.
And it goes back to, I'm not trying to get political here, but like how our society moves and stuff. Now it becomes, well, how can we get residual income from said artist? How can we get consistent payouts from things like that? Rather than, we used it for one thing, here's a lump sum, here you go. They want our stuff because we get residual income off of streaming, off of all these things. And that's ultimately for me where it's like, oh, that's why you want your hand in everything. That's why you
Yeah.
want us to give all that stuff because you want to keep making money off of something we created. Let's pat each other on the back. Let's shake hands. Let's do agreements on stuff. But why do you need that to get it into a TV show or a movie, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm trying hard not to get emotional, but for me, after you talked to me about it, I was really angry about the whole situation because it's like I'm happy with the music we make. I think we do some really cool stuff. I think we've become really great songwriters in our own context of like how songwriters work. And we don't have a mainstream hit because we don't have connections that want to take those to the next step. But I'll be damned if we have to give up 75% of something to get to that point and wind up in a Taylor Swift situation. And I totally respect her as an artist. She's a phenomenal songwriter, seems like a phenomenal person. But if she got screwed over as one of the biggest major artists of all time, I don't want it. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying not to like get over extreme or anything, but that's the real question is why do you need all that to put our music in a TV show or to put our music in a movie or to what a commercial? Yeah. And I know that there's people that are like, well, those are non-exclusive deals. Sure. Why though do they want an exclusive deal?
Yeah. That leads right into one of the next questions that I was going to ask is like, what are we losing? What would we be losing if we signed with this? Would we be gaining like the psychological just dopamine hit of thinking, ooh, our song is going to be, heard, blah, blah, blah. But then it harkens back to the devaluing of the creative process in making it sound or seem as though what we do isn't really a substantial part of society and humanity. And what it really is well, it's not about basic survival, and basic survival needs A, B, and C. And we don't really need music or art or design or architecture or like it. Going with this kind of deal that sounded as though it was going to take way more than it deserved to take is reminiscent of everything that a lot of things that I have heard about how the music industry and how artists and creative types and musicians are treated, where there is a cut from everything. There's a fee everywhere. There's an under the table, payment here. Like draining every last little frickin' penny from an endeavor is maddening, because when you and I write something that is seemingly desirable, and now there's an entity that says, well, your product is worthless without us because we're the ones who can physically get it sold. All right. So maybe you have to do more physical, arduous work in order to get it into people's hands and ears and to sell it. And maybe our job is more of a cerebral thing where we're creating and producing and taking in information from our world in order to process it into something that could be sold, or process it into something that people enjoy. What are we losing if we sign with that deal? I think way more than anyone realizes, because it's an immediate devaluing of what it is we do.
Who we are, what we represent, what we're trying to fight for.
Yeah.
You and I might be two small peons in this huge ocean, but maybe by the time in 20 years from now, we'll have more headway and more say-so in what happens and changes. And for you and me, I think we both stand principled on, yes, we ultimately want to have a career in music, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Like that's ultimately for me, like, I would love to have bragging rights of, oh my God, our song was in a Nissan commercial, whatever it is, or, a
Yeah.
blockbuster movie. There's tons of artists that had that too. It's not just that.
Yeah.
It's integrity. It's like, it's predatory. Like, why do they
Yes.
get to be predatory consistently and nothing happens or changes and we just have to go with it? Well, we don't. And you and I are struggling as musicians. We're not sitting here high and pretty making tons of money.
Nope.
And that's the point that I want to bring home is like, we could have taken this deal, fallen in line with the same system that everybody else before us has done. And instead we looked at it and we're like, you know what? No, we're not going to. And we're going to keep fighting for what we believe in. And if we're dead before it changes, at least we're part of the process that is changing it. They can't use our music and we know it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's great. We don't know. But that's one person that told us it's great. And I'd rather have 5 fans tell me that they enjoy it than one suit in the music industry telling me that it's great, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah. It does.
I'm not trying to get preachy or anything. It's so aggravating and frustrating that you and I have talked about this so much because we share that same compassion and passion for this stuff. But like, we always bring back Pearl Jam doing the Ticketmaster thing. And had they just stuck with it, and if a major artist just had changed something to better for the whole system, well, you and I can do that. And that's kind of how I'm viewing this. Is like, this is our fuck you. This is our this is kind of us being punk rock about it.
Sure.
We could have taken this offer and been like, yeah, we're going to do this because this is a chance for us to, and who the hell knows, man? It could have been nothing or it could have been something. But I'd rather keep my integrity and knowing like, nope, we keep it. We own it. It's ours. So
yeah, I think the ultimate moral of the story is don't sell the farm for peanuts.
Yeah.
If you want to enter into some sort of contractual agreement with this company that you come across, that's fine. Just make sure it's equitable for you. And people might say, well, you don't have much time, blah, blah, blah. There's always time. If a company wants your stuff, there is no deadline.
Yeah.
There is no deadline. There's no pressure or there's nothing that you should feel as though you have to make a rash decision without being fully informed. Because one of the things my dad has always explained to us over the years is that no contract is ironclad in the sense that, like, if you are going to buy a house and you and your realtors and everyone has agreed to these conditions and you're going to go to the table and sign the contract to buy the house and so on and so forth, all the monies have been sent to where they need to go and so on and so forth. Ultimately, until you sign your name on that contract, you owe nothing to anyone, and the contract is not binding. You don't have to agree to anything. You don't have to give anybody anything at all until your signature is signed on that line. Now, the logic that he as an attorney always employed is, well, any contract can be renegotiated because the contract just has to do with what both parties agree upon. And if you agree in this case to give the media company all the rights and control forever into perpetuity, well, then you don't get to change the terms of this contract ever unless they decide you can have it changed. You know what I mean? So ultimately, don't ever take any high pressure from anyone in any situation. Like you said, your own joy and excitement and hopes and maybe this that's fine. Take the contract step by step. Be excited the whole way through. You don't have to agree to anything. And I think ultimately you and I decided we value holding the rights to our music entirely because that's worth more. Because frankly, if I'm not mistaken, the powers that be, the big record companies and streaming companies, were battling with each other over song rights. And song rights is the big dollar thing now for record companies and, holding firms and whoever, all these big time corporations that are buying artist catalogs for $400 billion or $500
Bruce
billion.
Springsteen.
They're doing that because there's money in owning the rights to music. So what should you do with your music? Own the rights to your music. Don't give your rights away. Negotiate if you want. If you can't negotiate, just don't give away the rights to your music. So,
well, and how much money is enough money? Like, that's
right?
the other side of that. It's like, and again, that's just, maybe this isn't just American culture, but that's again, like, why are they so predatory? Because all they keep wanting is money, 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 money.
Yep.
So I didn't mean to cut you off, though.
No. That is I am done spewing. The moral of the story is don't give away the farm for peanuts. You are the value in this equation. Your work is the value in this equation. That's why they want it. Value your work as high in value as you possibly can. Don't ever sell yourself short psychologically or even monetarily. People want your art for a reason. Don't let them tell you it's worthless. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking. I think you had said that the other day, like this gaslighting logic that is told to people. And a lot of that gaslighting mental game stuff is actually mentioned in that Billy Corgan interview as well. So those of you out there who are curious to hear his side of some of that, go check it out. But beyond that, I have nothing else to say this afternoon other than I am proud of you and I for seeing the wolf in lamb's sheepskin. What's the sheep wool with lambs, and I don't remember the phrase, but we
lots
saw
of Euro meat.
We saw it, and you need to keep your eyes peeled because it's important.
Okay, I will. God, no, I know you're talking to the listeners.
Yeah. If they're still listening, this was a long one.
Well, they should be.
Wow.
It's a good practice, and it's one of those things again to just, as a community, we are a community. We all have each other's back, and we need to start doing that more. I appreciate you having my back in this whole thing because, again, that legal jargon to me just gets overwhelming. And having you being able to decipher that was like, this is great because I know, like you said, you're not an attorney or anything, but having somebody who kind of understands it where I'm like reading, I'm like, what is this actually meaning? And that's where for me, when attorneys and legal get involved, it can't just be clear and cut and be like, we want to use this song. We're going to split any portions that we get from you using this song. We're just going to do that. And that's it. It's always underlying stuff that's like, so anyway, I agree with you and I have nothing else to add. You did a great job on explaining it. So with that one, I think we're going to call it this episode, right?
All right, let's do it.
Thanks
for listening, everybody.
Now I don't get to talk to you anymore.
What?
Well, now I'm sad because I don't get to talk to you anymore.
Oh, I know. Well, you just got to wait till the next podcast.
All right, fine. Well, until next time, we want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us if you hate us. And if you do, I'm sorry. We are who we are. Follow us if you want to. Follow us if you don't like us and you want to just constantly keep picking on us. That's fine with us too. Follow's a follow. I'll take it. Anyway, we hope you learned something from today. I'm Joe.
I'm Ken.
All right, you guys all have a good one.